In this video, I want to explain why I've rebuilt my income pie. Not because it wasn't working, but because it had slowly become more complicated than it needed to be. This isn't about chasing higher dividends or trying to be clever. It's about making my income portfolio simpler, more predictable, and easier to grow over time. And if you're building an income portfolio with fairly small contributions, I think you'll probably relate to this. So just to set the scene, this income pie sits inside my Trading 212 investment account, and it currently receives about 30% of my £100 monthly contribution. The role of this pie is pretty simple: generate income, be low effort, and quietly compound in the background. I'm not trying to maximize yield at all costs, and I'm not relying on this income to live off. It's more about building the habit and the structure early, so it scales naturally over time. Now, my old income pie wasn't bad, and that's important to say. But as it grew, I started to notice a few issues. The first issue was overlap. I had a mix of income ETFs and individual UK dividend stocks, but a lot of those stocks were already held inside the ETFs. So I wasn't really diversifying, I was just duplicating. The second issue was the number of holdings. I had quite a few 5% positions, and at a portfolio size of around £500 to £600, those positions don't really move the needle. They add complexity, but not much impact. And the third issue was income consistency. Some holdings paid monthly, some quarterly, some irregularly. And even though income was coming in, it didn't feel predictable. That's when I realized this had slowly drifted away from being effortless. So I asked myself a very simple question. If I was starting this income pie from scratch today, would I build it the same way? And the honest answer was no. Instead of tweaking around the edges, I decided to rebuild it with 3 clear rules. First, every ETF needs a clear job. Second, fewer holdings, but with allocations big enough to matter. And third, predictable income is more important to me than squeezing out the highest possible yield. At this portfolio size, simplicity is optimization. So this is what the new income pie looks like. It's now made up of just 5 ETFs, and each one plays a very specific role. The first is JEQP, which makes up 25% of the pie. This is one of the core income engines. It uses a covered call strategy on global equities, which allows it to generate fairly consistent monthly income. This is where a big chunk of the predictability comes from. Next is JEIP at 20%. This serves a similar role, but with slightly more defensive tilt. Holding both helps reduce reliance on a single income strategy, while still keeping monthly payments. Then we have VHYL at 25%. This is the global dividend backbone of the portfolio. The yield is lower than the options-based ETFs, but the income is more traditional and more reliable over the long term. This keeps the pie grounded in a real dividend-paying companies. At 15% of the allocation, I've included IUKD, which gives focused exposure to UK dividend stocks. This replaces a number of individual UK holdings I previously had, and does the same job in a much simpler way. And finally, INFR at 15% allocation. This adds infrastructure exposure through utilities, transport, and energy, areas that tend to generate steady cash flows and offer some inflation protection. This part of the pie is about diversification, not chasing yield. So, what does this actually change? First, I now know roughly what to expect from this income pie each month. Second, it's far easier to add my £30 monthly contribution without constantly rethinking allocations. And third, this structure should scale cleanly as the portfolio grows. Whether it's £1,000 or £10,000, it's boring, and that's exactly what I want from an income portfolio. Just to be clear, I'm not saying this is the best income portfolio, and I'm not claiming this will outperform anything. This is just a structure that makes more sense for me right now, and I'll adjust it over time if it stops doing what I need it to do. I'll be tracking how this new income pie performs in my regular portfolio updates, so you'll be able to see how it behaves in real time. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer income ETFs, individual dividend stocks, or a mix of both? And as always, keep it simple, keep it realistic, and keep it effortless.